Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Gosh, you're on call, right?
Yeah, so I'll be probably muted the whole time, looking into some instance. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
I've sent Jimmy a Outlook calendar invite as well. I hope he finds the right meeting to join.
Yeah, it'll take a couple of weeks for it to settle back into people's calendars and whatnot. So maybe we won't have enough people today, but that's okay. So if we want, we can just go through any items you want to discuss. And
Yep, I'm just opening up Slack just in case Jimmy messages because he's on like the CNCF Slack.
okay, cool. We should figure out how to kind of like have a channel or something somewhere.
Yeah, so I was gonna reach out to Karen about that.
Yeah, just find out what's the best place.
Yeah, and yeah, Akash and I were talking about like it's worth still having a channel, even if it means we have to move and lose the history because
Yeah. How about we kind of piggyback on OPA, like OPA's channel if needed, because we are kind of dependent on Gatekeeper. We can kind of create a Gatekeeper dash Ratify or something like that. Karen, maybe you can suggest to Karen and see if that's a reasonable option.
yeah, sounds good. I'll message her.
There's some legal, I mean, not legal, there are some compliance. There are some rules in which certain organizations allow people to create channels. I know that CNCF is a little different, so you need to kind of work with some folks, but Karen should know where we can probably like have a home in some way.
Yeah, I'll just quickly message David just in case he's looking for the right link. Okay, let me share my screen. Yeah, we don't have a lot today. So last week, Akash was able to resolve the package dependencies and pushed a bunch of like require better versions of certain package, and that resolved a bunch of security alerts. So thank you very much, Akash. And yes, last week, Jimmy was running into a bunch of conflicts, but I think Akash were able to work with him to take the update, and now the AWS auth provider is merged and released as a part of Alpha 1.0.
Very cool. Very cool.
So yeah, we have a pretty clean, relatively clean pull request list today. As a part of the new AWS change, like now we're getting the AWS package updates as well. Oh, sorry. David is waiting to be let in. So we'll see, where is he at? Yep, here's David.
Hello.
Yeah, so if Jimmy was here, I was going to check with him, like, how should we merge these Dependabot updates for AWS SDKs, because we don't have I don't have access regularly to a AWS subscription, so we won't be able to validate the end-to-end, but it builds the basic end-to-end without, I guess the basic end-to-end uses a ACR registry. So I don't think the AWS path have any coverage.
Okay. Are these PRs public? They're not security updates, right? They're just Dependabot updates. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe we can just tag Jimmy and say, hey, just want to let you know we'll wait for maybe a week before we merge these in. Do you have any concerns? That might be an easy way out.
Yeah. Long term, we have to think about how to validate these changes, because they do get expensive. They come like every month, and if we have to manually update, it's oh, here is Jimmy.
Oh, good. You can ask him directly.
Yeah. Lee is here as well.
Hello.
Hello, Lee. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Yeah, I believe you were able to merge your change, and we released it as a part of V1.0 Alpha 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being so patient, and thank you, Akash, for is he on? I didn't know. That PR to my fork was amazingly helpful.
No worries. I'm glad you got unblocked. Sorry for all those dependency issues, but we finally squashed them. So.
No, I mean, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the patience, because I had like a family issue I was dealing with right after you guys issued that PR, so I didn't get to see it until like the following day. So, but all's good.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep.
Yeah, so we were just going through the pending PRs, and Dependabot automatically creates these package updates. So on the screen, you can see there's some AWS SDK package updates. And since there's no end-to-end integration test level coverage, Jimmy, do you want to validate these before they merge, or what's your preference on the merge policy of these package updates?
So when you say validate these before they merge, basically do it on my end, and then because I don't foresee any issue with it, but I can validate on my end outside of the repo. Is that what you're talking about, or?
Yeah, so usually for Azure, for things that I can validate, I typically just like take all these updates together and do just a basic walkthrough with the Azure authenticated registry. Just so for me, like I feel safer that, oh, okay, I've made sure that this workflow still works. But long term, like we should automate it so we don't do this manual process every month. But for now, for Azure, I'm manually validating, but we don't have any Azure as our AWS accounts that's easily accessible. So
Yeah, again, because you need that for the end-to-end for what these things are used for.
yeah, Sajay has a comment or maybe a suggestion here.
I think before we release, if we can validate manually, it might be okay. Like if we get it merged into main, that might be a reasonable check. But this should be PR validation automatically end to end. I know that's where we want to land, but at this point, maybe just merging into main. And if E2E breaks, we can always go back and check whoever is running this because they're running builds and whatnot, right? And we're not releasing directly, but before every release, maybe we can do that. That's what
Yeah.
I mean, so the thing about it, merging it into main, it will build. There's just no end-to-end test to exercise the SDK against AWS ECR. So that's the part. I mean, I can manually do that on my end. I don't have any issue doing that. It's just, we don't have it yet, I guess, in the repo.
Jimmy, do you like the suggestion? We can have a release checklist, and before release, here's the things that we need to manually validate.
Sure. Yeah.
So I can start a checklist like that somewhere.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can look at this sometime earlier in the morning and build locally and test it and make sure I'm using the latest here.
Yeah, that would be great. Like maybe in the beginning, like just to give us confidence that these packages are pretty safe to update.
Yeah. I mean, I think
and once you're ready, you can provide a review.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And once you leave a comment, I can just merge them in.
Okay. And what I'm seeing is 3 of them, right?
Yes.
3 SDK ones. Okay. Yep.
And there's one on I will validate the client Go one. Oh, hi, David.
Hi. Yeah, I was just curious, since we're on that topic, Jimmy, like what you typically do for other scenarios that require AWS infrastructure to test. Do you for any kind of open source projects?
So generally speaking, what I've done in the past is an end-to-end test, but obviously that requires, in this case, using the SDK, requires an AWS account. I mean, I can talk to my folks and see what we can do about that. I mean, we have our own internal accounts, but I haven't. I don't think I have anything that I can expose externally. But I'll find out how we do this just to verify that these things don't break.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, because I think the ideal is obviously I think on both sides that we, provision something, run the test, destroy it, and then it's clear cut, and then also ideally whatever the credentials are used or the account is very it's rotated or it's minimal access kind of thing, so it's serves its purpose within scope.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see what I can find out.
Okay. There is another dependent bot with the artifact spec from RC1 to RC2. Sajay, David, do you know if we're ready for that? Is it safe to take?
Yeah, I think it's a very safe change. But Akash, you can, if you want, we can wait for validation. It's very minor.
Yeah, I think it should be okay. The only thing that changed was the subject field is now optional and it's a pointer now. So I'm trying to think, would that affect Ratify? I'll revisit this, Susan.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, whatever you're finding is just leave a comment in the PR.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, I see. Thank you, David. I see you pinging Teja for the next round of review, but hopefully Eric will be able to take a look when he comes back as well. I think he's back next week. Yep. Anything else on the PR side before we move to discussion items? Okay, we're all good. On the discussion agenda, I just had one item where I wanted to check. In our release process, we didn't really specify the format of the tag. And I noticed, I think currently our tag is the same as the branch. And sometimes it'll cause confusion, like when we try to delete things and like Git doesn't know, are we trying to delete the tag or are we trying to delete the branch? So can we agree on a format of the tag and the branch, and then we'll stick to that in the future?
Yeah, I was looking at well, a number of things recently on this space, and a lot of times in terms of Simver, you know, you'll have one with a V and one without, and then at least that way for that purpose, you kind of fix both problems there.
I see. Yeah. So which one would, so let me bring up our Git trigger to see the workflow. So on release. Okay, so our workflows are based off the V star tag. So then I'll do our branch without the V then.
For
Yep.
PRs,
Or for PRs, I think PRs are.
I think we copied this convention over from Auras when we kind of agreed that branch and tag would actually be there. So what happens is that when the tag is cut, we have a similar branch onto which things are staged, and then finally we tag that, so things can make it in some form. Technically there shouldn't be any problem if there is a tag and a branch of the same name. It is a little bit of gymnastics with the Git command line, but ideally there should not be a problem. Are you seeing an issue that we need to fix, or?
Yeah, so for example, last week we had several failed releases. Then we need to go back and delete the tag. And that's when we're not sure if this Git command actually removes the tag or the branch, because they share the same like Git push remote command.
Yeah, you need to use ref / something with the tags to kind of get it specifically to delete the tag or the thing. I can help if you want with that. No problem. I did that for us. If others have any comments, please go ahead.
So what's the advantage of using exactly the same name of the branch?
I don't know. I took it from
Yeah, see, I don't see any advantages there, and I also kind of brought this up on a different thread where, you know, there's a general question as well of why even have the branch, you know, like, and I get it if we're patching for going back, like Kubernetes, you know, you go back and you have to patch older versions and those kinds of things, but that's a separate thing. So I would still vote for the you know, the branch without
Ajay
the
may be
V
going for it
and
because it works.
yeah, yeah. I would vote for the branch without the V and then the tag with the V, unless there's some advantage of having it exactly the same name, because there's a clear disadvantage in the Git command line having to throw a bunch of other arguments to specify the right thing. Yeah.
No, sounds reasonable. I think Helm does release dash and the version, so we can pick any model. It's fine.
Yeah.
So the release dash is the tag name?
So they have branches that are
Branch.
release dash, and then the tag name is just V something, because core modules that have they need the V in front of it.
Yep. Okay, I will capture this detail in the release MD and I'll submit a PR, David, so you can review.
Sure, sounds good.
Cool. That's everything on the agenda list. I guess now we're open to other discussions. Anyone want to talk about anything? Hi, Lee, did you have any topics?
not immediately. I was more joining because I missed a couple of these and wanted to keep up. We've been a little bit all over the map with things. So we haven't been as immediately focused on Ratify lately. I know we've looked briefly at the support dynamic configuration design doc, and we need to spend a little bit more time looking through it. I think there were some questions and possible concerns around like restarting the whole executor in response to a file change, but having not looked at the doc in enough depth, I don't want to state too much with certainty. So mostly here to listen.
Yeah, probably in the future, we will try to diff what's changed and reload only that part. But the current implementation is when a file got changed, we create another executor, and on verified, then it replaces the previous executor. So it uses the new executor to validate.
I think we moved from pod restart or redeploy to process or executor restart. And I think you want to move to just, okay, let's just refresh this in memory. It's a natural progression. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think that was the general gist of our thoughts, but it's probably something that just comes along with the development process. Like it'll get there, hopefully.
Jimmy, do you have anything you want to discuss?
So I was just, it's probably not, it's kind of off topic. So if we're at that point, I was just interested in some of the stuff that's happening with OCI right now and ORAS and notation, and trying to figure out if anybody had any inside information as to what's happening. It seems like the OCI folks have started up again with a solution and how it compares to ORAS, and if you guys had known anything about it.
Sure, I'm on the call, so I kind of like work as Lucky's representative from the maintainer side for the OCI working group. And we worked with Michael Brown to kind of like land the Aura spec also. So the long story short is OCI reference type working group is deciding on an approach. They align very closely with what we have done in Auras already. The plan for Auras right now is to ship and get this thing done. And we're not deviating from that.
Okay.
The approach for OCI, if that lands appropriately, and maybe depending on timing and depending on resourcing, we might have an opportunity to consider maybe moving to the OCI format. Capability-wise, they are very similar. So the Aura spec was moved to the OCI reference working type as one of the proposals. They cherry-picked a lot of portions of it and is there in the currently flighting proposal E. So I'm trying to make sure that we have least amount of dev churn when we move to OCI, if and when the OCI standard is published and accepted, because that should work across clouds. And I think all the fields that are there in Auras, Michael actually kind of like discussed about bringing the artifact type and moving that to the manifest. So the manifest literally looks ditto except for the media type and things like that. It's literally byte to byte almost same. There's not much of a difference from tooling and whatnot, but there will be a slight bit of a change that we will have to do in terms of using the new OCI reference type if and when that comes along. So we're not shifting from any kind of commitment from Auras, but I think as a person working on both sides, Auras needs to seriously consider if we need to move to OCI. But when OCI is at a point where everybody is agreed that this is what all cloud providers and all vendors are going to do, we have hopes that GCR is also on the table for this. So that means you'll get a uniform experience versus maybe Auras might have to kind of like evolve to use the new spec. The good thing about Auras is it only stands for OCI registry at storage. The artifact is a minor construct to introduce a new capability, and we can do that same linking capability using the reference type that the OCI working group is talking about. So from a scenario perspective, nothing falls apart, but it might be a little bit of a churn when if and when OCI kind of agrees to what they want to do. So does that roughly give you an idea as where parts are, or is there anything specific you were looking for?
No, that's exactly what I was looking for, because I'd heard through different folks that OCI had started up again, in earnest, looking at this same thing that Oris was doing, and
Right.
so I just wanted to make sure that it sounds like to me that it makes sense to full steam ahead with Oris, and then look at OCI when they're more mature and see what can, and if can it be used, and what makes sense to
Right.
use. So, yeah.
And the OCI group is very aggressively trying to land this. So it's not I don't want to say this, but there might be a very, very narrow window where ORAS is kind of GA and OCI might come along in like maybe a couple of months. We have an opportunity to evaluate whether we want a GA or not, but there's no change in course or no change in plan with respect to what we have deployed. From Azure side, I can say that we are already kind of deployed ORAS. So it's not that we are waiting for anything. And if we have to add the OCI capability, it's going to be additional rather than break anybody that's already depending on it. So I think there's tough conversations, but I don't think there's any change in plan. I'm on the ORAS maintainers group, and I'm also on the working group for OCI. So we have a lot of commonality among ORAS folks and the OCI folks. So
does that also mean that the notation folks are full speed ahead as well, right? I mean, because I noticed in testing lately with the latest version of notation that while I could sign in an Oris registry, I could not verify with an Oris registry because the latest RC spec was not yet in the verification call in notation. So I'm assuming, okay.
Yeah, no, that should align. If that might be just a bug in or a point in time thing. So we need to kind of like align everything with RC1 or RC2 at this point. So everything should be ORAS compatible, at least for the near future for notation and notary project. Similar to how ORAS might move to OCI, that same discussion will have to happen for notation, whether we need to move that to OCI or not. And we'll have to do a one-shot cut of ORAS taking that flag and supporting it so that notation itself doesn't have to do much heavy lifting. All the other projects that depend on ORAS will for free get, okay, you can use like a flag maybe to use OCI or ORAS, or we'll have to figure out what the implementation is at that point in time.
Okay, cool. It sounds good. It's good news.
It had to go through a lot of thinking, and I've been spending a lot of time trying to make sure that the migration path exists, and Michael has been there on all the calls. So I think we should have a decent story, but you never know. Like we want to play it safe. Yeah.
Well, it's good because I was getting like second and third hand information, so it's good to get it from the fount, so to speak.
Yeah, that's why I attend all these calls. It's tough to kind of shift context and lose track of what happens along all three calls, right? So there's ORAS, there's OCI, there's OCI TOB, and then there's notary that all kind of needs to tie in. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had, by the way.
Thanks for sharing, Sajay. I thought of one other item that Alessandro brought up earlier. So he was asking if we hold any bug bashes. So given we just released v1.0.alpha, maybe we should have one at some point, but just want to check with like Sajay, David, like how does bug bashes work for other open source projects?
I've never done them from an open source project. I've only done them for internal ones. But I mean, theoretically, there should be, not a whole lot different. You would just have to advertise, right? Hey, we're gonna have a bug bash on this day, and invite the public, whoever wants to show up, right? So yeah, I don't know if we're, I think for me, in my mind, bug bashes are good when you've done a number of significant changes and there's a lot of different paths that people could be taking that you're unsure of, and it's really good to get that that focus run through feedback when things are going down, especially like you maybe do a fresh doc update or new, there's usually some purpose behind it. but yeah, I think it's good. I don't want to put any hard requirements on it. But yeah.
Yep. When people feel like we need a bug bash, we can try one out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So what's next on the items that we're picking up? Do you have any idea, Susan? Or I know Akash is on call right now, so he's kind of like busy, but
Yeah, I haven't. I want to know the priority of, like, I think the 3 items I'm looking at is the Kubernetes, like is it the controllers and the like CRDs that
Mhm.
supports the like dynamic file, dynamic configuration. So that's one that we've been talking about several times. And then there's a cached executor. Jimmy brought up that the polling interval, like by default is, I think it was 60 seconds. So we should give a cached response. We have an item tracking that already. And the third one is having a watcher on the key. So today with the
key vault, yeah,
watching on the configuration file,
right.
If there's a new cert or a new path that they want to use for the cert, that will get picked up. But if the key got rotated, say in the key vault, I suspect that maybe the file name is the same. Like maybe we won't trigger any file update, but I need to test it out still.
Okay, so I think maybe Lee can chime in on here. Did your folks want to take up the CRD kind of like a stab at it, or it's kind of like it's up in the air for grabs at this point? So
I think it's a possibility for us to take up. I think our first set of concerns is still firming up like that core execution loop of the executor and making sure that that structure is really strong. So while I think that we could potentially pick it up, I don't want to promise us for that when
okay,
the first concern is like primary execution in any setting.
so this
and
was the
we
plugin
definitely wanna-
extension, right? That you wanted to kind of pick up.
Why don't we-
It's a few different conversations, but plugin
Yeah.
extensibility is one of them. Yes.
Yeah, I think we have another meeting anyway. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I do need to go, unfortunately.
yeah. Okay.
It was good to talk to y'all briefly.
Bye.
Thanks for joining, Lee. See you next time.
Thank you.
Okay. Wait, should I be in that meeting?
Yeah, but we're wrapping up anyway. I
I
think,
think we're done. Yeah.
All right, I need to join that one as well. That's why David and Lee had to go. All right, sounds good. All right, thanks, Susan. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, take care,
Yeah,
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Kash.
Thank you, Akash.
Bye.